CA Hari Kishan, Secretary, CA Manoj Agarwal, Treasurer, all the other members of the Managing Committee, all the delegates who have come here today. I hope not only for those 2 hours of credit that you get. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, सबसे पहले तो भैया मेरे को एक्सेलेंसी बोलना बंद करो. I've come home, haven't I? And incidentally, Sundarji didn't invite me. I invited myself to your program. Am I right, Pawanji? We have contacted the institute. It was a matter of chance that while I was returning on the second evening, and we had to have a program on the 4th with the Honorable Prime Minister, it fortunately got postponed. And I thought, being a Sunday, while I know Sunday is a working day in Dubai, but I still thought that gives me an opportunity to connect with old friends. This is probably the 3rd time I'm meeting the chartered accountants in Dubai. 19, we had an event, and I somehow seem to remember I've come before I became a minister also. 12, right. So this is the 3rd time. Chartered accountants' memory, Pawanji, is normally not too bad. But more importantly, this is a special occasion when I'm visiting UAE. Of course, I could be very happy that just like in my life, my first visit out of the country after my, no, in fact, that was before my marriage. So yes, it was my first visit, was to Dubai, when I had come to see the Jebel Ali Free Trade Zone and consider setting up an industrial unit here. That was a long time ago. And this time after the pandemic, with almost 19 months struggling with the pandemic, my last overseas trip was to Bhutan, another lovely country, another great friend of India. From where I returned on the 1st of March 2020, and I came to Dubai on the 1st of October 2021. Almost like the emergency, 19 months. But it felt very good to come to another very friendly country, a country with whom we have deep historical ties, we share a lot of rich heritage, tradition, friendship. Honorable Prime Minister and His Highness the Crown Prince have built very strong bonds of brotherhood. The people of both countries have very strong connections. And what better time to come to Dubai than an occasion where you are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of independence. You are celebrating the year of the 50 years of the establishment of Dubai, of the UAE. It will coincide with 40 years of your Dubai chapter next year. We are currently in India celebrating Seva or Samarpan, a whole 3-week period from 17th September, Prime Minister Modi's birthday, till 7th October, on which day he will complete 20 years of uninterrupted, absolutely continuous, if I may venture to add, without a single day off. As the head of a duly elected democratic government, first in Gujarat, serving the state of Gujarat as Chief Minister, then in the center as the Prime Minister of India, Without a single day's gap, there are probably no other parallel that we could find who has been the head of a democratically elected government continuously for 20 years. And it was an occasion to celebrate, like we would celebrate any other occasion full of festivities and fireworks. But as you are aware, Prime Minister Modi absolutely does not welcome celebrations on his birthday. He says, if you can serve society in some form or the other during my birthday, give back to society so that it should become an opportunity to engage and involve the entire community to care for the underprivileged, to care for those sections of society who need help the most. And therefore, for this 20 days, 21 days, all of us in India are making a serious effort to have an outreach to the less privileged, to the marginalized sections of society. Several programs are being carried out all across the country by, I would think, millions of Indians voluntarily to give a message of solidarity with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and recognizing the huge contribution that he has done for the country through his relentless work to transform the lives of the people of India. We as chartered accountants have contributed immensely in this journey of 75 years. 75 years of independence is of course a time to reflect on all that we have achieved as a nation, but also a time to prepare our vision for the next 25 years so that when India completes 100 years in 2047, we are working to a goal, we are working to tangible outcomes, a defined agenda, an agenda where every Indian has a better quality of life. We can take prosperity to our villages. We ensure good health care, good education for every single child, every single old person. We ensure good work, quality work with fair incomes for every able-bodied young man and woman. We care for those lesser privileged. In every possible way, take the country to greater heights. And in this journey, all of you, my friends, have a very, very important role to play. You have heard Prime Minister Modi talk about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas or Sabka Prayas. It is that prayas that all of us have to engage in that will result in Sabka Vishwas. And as chartered accountants, we all know that there is great strength in our pen. A document that we certify, an account that we authenticate, a paper that bears the signature of a chartered accountant, carries the trust and confidence that people rely upon, businesses rely upon, governments rely upon. The ethics that we uphold, the integrity that we conform to, the standards of our profession that we set for ourselves, truly can determine the future of our beloved country. Should we fail in our duty, and I am saying this with all sincerity, should we as chartered accountants fail in our duty, can you imagine what would happen to our work in India, work with other countries across the world, the image of the country, the credibility of our systems, our processes, our development goals. Because every single document that you sign is relied upon by every stakeholder. Whether it's a due diligence that you do of somebody's accounts before an investment was to come in, whether it could be domestic, it could be international. Whether it's a certificate of fit and proper that you may certify, or a document confirming the authentic status of any aspect of somebody's assets, business, credentials. And I'm sharing this with you, ladies and gentlemen, because as we work towards a free trade agreement with the UAE, and we are working fast, progressing very well. Dr. Thani was in India on the 22nd of September, and I also believe he shared your celebrations on 26th June earlier this year. And therefore many of you would have engaged with him and seen what a fine gentleman and what a progressive thinker he is. In my very first meeting with him many years ago, we had hit off a very good friendship. And I think that came to fruition when on the 22nd of September we were able to agree to try and conclude a free trade agreement, a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, going beyond just a free trade agreement. Also try to strengthen the bilateral investment treaty between the two countries before the end of calendar 2021. It's something that I suspect has never been attempted before. And our officials got to the task on the 23rd of September itself. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a huge demonstration effect in any action that you do. We had the Australian Trade Minister in India on the 30th, just before I came to Dubai. And over extensive discussions with him, when we were finalizing the contours of a free trade agreement with Australia, including an early harvest or an interim agreement that we can operationalize faster to get benefit of the low-hanging fruits. Probably knowing full well that we have talked to UAE for a end December deadline. He said, but Australia wants to do it before 25th of December. I may be meeting my UK counterpart a couple of weeks from now. I'll have to see whether there's another race to the finish in trying to conclude our agreement with UK and the interim agreement that we are talking to them. Why I say this, ladies and gentlemen, is all of these engagements are important and necessary because we wish to expand our trade, our business, investment flows on both sides with like-minded countries, with countries where there is immense potential for India, where there is a reciprocity in the trade, where jobs can be created in a big way back home to serve all those who have been left behind in the development cycle. I very often say that all of us sitting here today are blessed. Blessed with a good education, blessed with opportunity. Maybe, and I would urge each one of you to reflect and you will realize the power of what I am telling you. Maybe because somebody in your family, maybe one generation back, 2 generations back, 3 generations back, may have boarded a train, come out of his village and reached some trading destination, some city, some town, started working there and providing for all of us, our generation, through the years of hard work. It was that opportunity they got. that helped us be here today, helped all of us achieve the success that we have and the prosperity that our children enjoy. And therefore, for us, as chartered accountants, as the privileged professionals that we are, I think our duty goes beyond the work we do in our offices, in our businesses, in our professions. A little bit of concern for that section of society which has left behind, who has not yet boarded a train maybe, who's not yet got the opportunity that we got, can do wonders when we are working towards rejuvenating India, reimagining India, reigniting that growth, that feeling of oneness as a nation. And I'm connecting this with your certificate because should there be lack of adequate care and caution when you are certifying a piece of paper leading to distrust about India, about Indian businesses. If you were to certify a wrong person having good credentials, if you were not to do your job on verifying the accounts, the fit and proper criteria, the background of any of the entities or persons you are approving either for trade or insurance or banking, credit, investments, you are harming that child who could otherwise have got a better life. That person who could have made some more money, done some more work through the expanded business that we are hoping to do through all of these engagements with several developed countries. He would lose that opportunity. His children would lose an opportunity to get good health care, good quality education, and make a life of his own, possibly at some future time come and sit in this room with all of us. And therefore, each one of us, I'm quite confident we'll complete our engagement and come to terms for greater trade and business with Dubai, with the UAE. Each one of us sitting here is an ambassador of India, is a colleague of Pawanji. Each one of you, in your words, in your deeds, in your behavior, reflects India. You may have stayed here for many years, some of you for generations, but they look at you and recognize you as an Indian. With a diaspora as large as 3.5 million plus, serving this country well. And I say serving this country well and honorably, Dubai couldn't have been made without this 3.5 million Indians in UAE. And we are proud of you. We are in fact proud of this relationship and the brotherhood you have built with the people of UAE, particularly since at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were getting frantic calls from people across the world who wanted to come back home, back to India. I don't think we got any SOS messages or any calls from UAE that we want to rush back home. They were so well taken care of, the Indian diaspora. Many large organizations met me in the last couple of days, and in most cases they were accompanied by a chartered accountant, by the way. In fact, yesterday somebody I met, I felt must be a chartered. He said, I'm also a chartered accountant. I thought must be around the time I did my CA. Turned out he was about 10 years senior to me or 12 years senior to me. I think in Dubai you don't age very fast. But the passion with which he was talking, and I think Ambassador Pawan Kapoor is understanding whom I'm referring to, the passion in his commitment, the way he said, I will get you a way to raise 4,000 crores more for the Commerce Ministry to help support trade. I have this plan which will help us increase trade in agricultural produce between India and UAE. I think that passion that I saw in him was infectious. It was really redeeming. And I just reflected at that moment. I said, thank God I'm meeting all my colleagues tomorrow. I'll get a chance to interact with them. And I read from the program that we are going to have an interaction now. So rather than a long speech, I'll look forward to some engaging interaction with you. But truly, I think you have a big responsibility cast on each one of you. As we look at large investments, the ruling family has committed $75 billion of investments from their sovereign wealth funds alone. But we've not been able to identify enough opportunities. Each one of you can help do that. Look at why should India only be receiving investments from other parts of the world and in pretty big measure. Last year we had the highest ever FDI, $82 billion during the COVID period. We have now probably 70 odd unicorns in India. Half of them, or 30 of them almost, who became unicorns in the COVID year. I just met day before also somebody who I was told became a unicorn 1 week ago. He was at the Dubai Expo 2020. I'm just sharing with you there's so much potential. Each one of you can help expand the investment interests in India, expand trade between UAE and India, honest trade, help change the perception of India, improve the relations between businesses from India and UAE. And therefore I said, as ambassadors of India, possibly also as brand ambassadors of India for the wonderful work you do as professionals or business persons, I am confident that all of us collectively can, in the first stage, double the trade between UAE and India, but in the longer term perspective, make India truly the preferred source of goods and services from India, the preferred destination for investments from UAE to India, help strengthen businesses in India, expand opportunities for people to come to UAE and serve the UAE. There are so many multifaceted ways in which each one of us can contribute. And remember, keep it at the back of your mind that every time you do any of these activities that I have pointed out, maybe some child back home, कोई एक नन्हे मुन्ने बच्चे का जीवन शायद संवर जाएगा आपके, कोई एक बुजुर्ग को शायद जीवन दान मिल जाएगा, सही समय पे अच्छा उनका पालन पोषण हो जाए, उनकी स्वास्थ्य सेवाएं मिल जाए। कोई एक परिवार का उद्धार करने में जो आनंद आता है, वो शायद अपने परिवार और अपने बच्चों के उद्धार के आनंद में भी उतना मजा नहीं है जितना जब आप सोचते हो कि मैंने ये काम किया और उससे 300 परिवारों को वहां पे एक अच्छी नौकरी मिली, अच्छा काम मिला, 600 बच्चों का भविष्य सुधर गया। उसका जो स्वाद है, उसका जो आनंद है, वो अपने आप में आप जब महसूस करोगे तब आपको ध्यान आएगा। और इसीलिए जब मैंने भी सोचा कि अब अपने जीवन में हमें अपना व्यक्तिगत काम नहीं करना है और समाज के साथ जुड़ना है, सरकार में सेवा देनी है, तब मुझे लगता है कि एक प्रकार से ये मेरे जीवन के लिए तो कम से कम शायद सबसे अच्छा प्रसंग हुआ कि मुझे मौका मिला कि कुछ ना कुछ कर सकूं देश के लिए, देशवासियों के लिए। मैं उम्मीद करूंगा कि यही भावना हम सब चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स अपने दिल में रख के अपना काम करें, समाज को अपने केंद्र बिंदु में रखें, भारत को भी प्राथमिकता दें अपने विचारों में, अपने काम में। और जब ये यहाँ के क्या 1500 मेंबर हैं आपके, 2600, अच्छा, हर विजिट में आता हूं तो बढ़ जाते हैं। और अबू धाबी चैप्टर अलग है, उसमें कितने हैं? 1000। तो आप लगभग 3500। अब सबसे पहले तो सुंदर जी और बाकी 3500 को खोज के रजिस्टर तो कराओ। नहीं, हमने सबने उसमें पार्ट लेना चाहिए। इट्स नॉट ओनली सुंदर चौक, हम भी अगर जानते हैं कि 3000 और हैं तो हमारी सबका भी दायित्व है कि अपने इंस्टीट्यूट के प्रति हम इतना तो कर ही सकते हैं। अगर कोई मिले और पता चले वो हमारे इंस्टीट्यूट का मेंबर नहीं है, देखिए ताकत होती है एक संस्था को भी खड़े करो। संस्था में जितनी, आखिर ये 7000 को आप इसकी 7000 की सूची के सामने अगर लिखो कि इनका योगदान कितना है यूएई की अर्थव्यवस्था में, व्हाट इज देयर कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द इकोनॉमी और wherever they are working, how much does that company contribute to the GDP of UAE, you may find it to be 99%. Somewhere our chartered accountant will be playing a role in every aspect of UAE's economic activities, and which will mean that he can contribute also to our potential greater engagement. We are now the second largest trading partner of UAE, India. Not only do we have to make it the first, but also first by such a margin that the second should be far behind us. And therefore, let's get all 7,000 of us together. Let's demonstrate to our brothers and sisters back home in India that the CAs of Dubai, of Abu Dhabi, of the UAE in general mean business and service. Let that be our motto. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू सीए पीयूष जी। अभी एक्सेलेंसी काम में नहीं लिया सर, आपने बोला तो फॉर लेटिंग अस नो हाउ एंड व्हेन इंडिया इज गोइंग टू अचीव $5 trillion इकोनॉमी। एंड नाउ आई रिक्वेस्ट ऑल द मेंबर्स टू आस्क क्वेश्चंस। आई थिंक लेट्स कीप आवर क्वेश्चंस pertaining to the topic of the session. We can have the mic. Yeah.
Still.
Hello.
Boss.
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
My question is, hello. Yeah, my question is specific to the textile. I'll be asking a specific question. We have seen tremendous increase in cotton prices in India, and India, I think, among the number 2 in the world in cotton. So, what government is doing to control the cotton prices? And we know that the free market is good for every economy, but indirectly, directly, I think government might be doing something to control the cotton prices, as it affects the industry also.
I think commodities and prices of all of these products, cash crops and all are high all over the world. Government should not interfere in that pricing because Frankly, we in India believe that gradually government should get out of everybody's business, day-to-day business, and let the market evolve. When cotton prices are high, more farmers will sow cotton. Production will increase, therefore economic activity will get a better chance. So I don't think it's important right now to control those prices. Internationally, the value of products made out of cotton are reflecting that increased price of cotton or increased shipping costs that we are facing these days. And I can only share with you that our exports in the first 6 months overall as a nation are $197 billion, the highest in India's history. COVID for 3 months, the second wave, rains after that, we've had a tough 6 months, but the highest ever exports. So generally my own view is government should remain out of people's lives and business. Look at the IT sector. It has flourished over the last 20 years because government remained out of the IT sector. तो मेहरबानी करके ये मत मांगिए कि सरकार दखल अंदाज करे किसी व्यापार में.
Please sit down.
Padmanabh Acharya, President of Indian Business and Professional Group in Abu Dhabi and past Chairman of Abu Dhabi Chapter. You had mentioned Sabka Prayas, and you had also mentioned something in terms of agriculture sector. Are there any specific sectors which you are targeting, which we can as people in UAE help in terms of furthering?
I would in fact urge all of you to reflect what are the potentials where UAE can really do business in a bigger way from India. It need not be only duty cut. It could be reduction of duties. It could be MRAs, mutual recognition agreements to recognize each other's laboratories so that it becomes easier to do business. It could be quality standards, better standards back home in India so that seamlessly goods can come into UAE. Like we recently introduced hallmarking in jewelry. Everybody from the UAE welcomed it. They said this will help us expand our business when we know that we're getting good quality material from India. So generally, opportunities are there in jewelry, gems and jewelry, diamonds. Today I was reading the list of main items that UAE trades in. There's potential in textiles. There's potential in leather and footwear, leather accessories. I believe there'll be huge potential in foodstuffs. And we have to look at the potential not only from the perspective of UAE, but UAE being a trading hub, more than half their imports are re-exported, which go all over North Africa or almost all over Africa, some other parts of Asia. So I would urge all of you in the next week or 10 days, and if Sundar, you could pilot this as an institute also, that they all give suggestions, you compile them and make a brief note of what are the areas that we should focus on in our negotiations. You would be doing us a great service.
Specified with respect to when they say that 100% FDI is in those particular sectors, so they're giving 100% ownership to foreign investors as well, and in which, as you mentioned about textile, agriculture, leather, garments, toys, gaming, and so many other lists are there, in which the UAE government is also putting much emphasis, and I think those are the areas where India can play a significant role in those nations. So we can.
So send me a note also on services.
Right.
What we can do together.
Good morning, sir. My name is Akhil Jain. My question is relating to the topic of the day, 5 trillion economy. Now, do you think because of the pandemic, there will be a shift in the goalpost from 2025?
There could be a little, we've had a setback. Undoubtedly, the whole world has had a setback. But on our side, the Prime Minister has made every effort to convert this crisis into an opportunity. We've been doing very transformative new initiatives, including the new telecom policy that came out, several aspects of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package. There's been a continuous effort on our part to try and liberalize processes related to coal mining or mineral mining. I can list out so many. We removed that retrospective tax legacy that we had received. So many steps being taken. Our effort is we should still pitch for that $5 trillion economy by 24-25, which was our original thinking, and then for a 10 trillion by 2030 maybe. So I'm an optimist, and I believe that with the kind of efforts the Honorable Prime Minister is making, with the mood in the nation today, with the positivity that our businesses, our young boys and girls in India have, we should still pitch to make it happen. फिर देखिए कि टारगेट तो बड़ा रहना ही चाहिए और इच्छा शक्ति बड़ी प्रबल रहनी चाहिए. We should be really bold, because when you are bold, when you are aiming for the sky, that's when you reach the moon. Let's go for it.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Mayank Sahani. So my question is, the major perception issue which we face when we talk to investors from UAE on investing in India is, one, ease of doing business. Second, the legal and taxation structure in India, which, given UAE is usually a tax-free economy, they're not used to the complex legal and taxation system. So to attract investments from UAE to India, I think some level of reforms there are already being made, but further reforms need to be made. So I want to understand from you, what are the steps being taken in that direction?
Were you also a backbencher in school? No, very good question. Excellent point. I think, as you rightly said, we've been making effort on several steps, but at the same time, there must be potential for many more things. As the Prime Minister earlier gave us a task to remove unnecessary compliance burden, and on 15th August also he spoke about it, if you recall. I released a report about 10 days ago on about 22,000 compliances which have either been eased or simplified or completely done away with, or after the Prime Minister's clarion call to all ministries and state governments also. But there's another, मतलब आप सोचोगे मैं यहाँ पे सिर्फ आपको काम देने आया हूँ, but वास्तव में जो आप अपने आप महसूस करते हो. See, sometimes sitting in government you don't realize. I've also now 7 years not actively engaged in business or in banking, investment banking or anything. I'm out of touch with current, what are the difficulties you face. We on our part believe we've tried to simplify things a lot. Ease of doing business rankings, competitiveness rankings, innovation, global innovation index. India has done very well in all of these. But with your practical experience, particularly from the perspective of living in UAE, working in such a simplified atmosphere, I'm sure you have good repertoire of knowledge what we need to do back home in India. So I would urge you to, all of you, to think about what your experiences were. And I would urge you, don't just tell me what's wrong. Tell me what it could be, how it could be done better. Solution साथ में दो प्रॉब्लम तब इजी हो जाता है.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, sir. I've been following your journey, and some of the things which you do not publicize highly. During your tenure with the Energy Ministry, you actually made India's energy surplus, the freight corridor, which is another huge infrastructure development that's happening, and now the FTA, which is going at a very fast speed. So I would like to hear what's coming up next, 2022. The second one is India has got a huge talent pool that's available. About 5 lakh engineers passing out every year, 50,000 doctors passing out every year. And you look at any particular profession or education field, there's a huge talent that's coming out. From a marketing of India point of view, maybe that's an area to also pitch in into our offering, that there's a huge talent pool that's available. So, just
on the first point, I can only say that I've been going through several ministries which gave me an opportunity to get an understanding and then try to do something in each one of them. My most current edition is food, public distribution, consumer affairs and textile. All of which are relatively new to me. I've never had any engagements of any significance except one or two assignments I'd done maybe 10 years ago before I became a minister or something. But broadly, and food and public distribution, these are subjects which are completely alien to me traditionally. So a lot of learning in the process for me, but I do have plans to try and get the textile sector back into the growth phase, because what has happened over the years is we have focused too much on cotton, and all our effort has been based on cotton and cotton-based textiles, whereas the world has moved on. 2/3 of international trade is man-made fiber and technical textiles, where we have a very low share because we never promoted this. So currently, I think the effort is to diversify our textile portfolio, expand our international trade, and as you may be aware, wherever I've gone, I've tried to put very aggressive targets. I have in my mind that we should triple our exports of textiles. We did about 33 billion last year we had done. This year's target is 44 billion. My effort is that 33 should go up to 100 billion at least. I hope to do that. Similarly, on food procurement and MSP, food distribution, I think efficiency and integrity of those systems, the storage of these products, maybe using operation research, OR techniques, and trying to bring down the cost of this whole process, making it more transparent. Of course, Prime Minister Modi has been working on it for a long time. One Nation, One Ration Card is a great initiative. Our poor people, they go out of their homes to work in different states. Earlier, they could only get ration at one point, one place, either the village or where he works. Now they can get ration anywhere in the country. Part of the ration they can take in the village for family members in the village. Partly they can take in Mumbai or Surat or Tamil Nadu or wherever they may be working as migrant labor maybe. So that way we are trying various ways to make the lives of the most deserving people better. I'll try to build upon that to see how we can do these systems more efficiently in the years to come. And of course my job as industry minister to ensure that our manufacturing base grows. The PLI schemes, I hope all of you are keeping track of the PLI schemes and encouraging businesses from UAE also to participate in that. All of you are welcome. And it's open to the world. It's not only Indian companies or anything. Anybody from around the world can come and invest in India in manufacturing under the Production Linked Incentive Program. We are also trying in good measure to increase our international trade. I have not yet put a deadline, but I do hope that we should go up to $1 trillion in exports and $1 trillion in service export, collectively making it 2 trillion. I am working on a plan of action so that I can put a deadline to it. It's still work in process. And I've tried to make a competition between services and goods. So last year services was about 194 and goods were 290. The gap is narrowing, and frankly thanks to government not being involved in service exports. So I'm trying to have a race to the top. That will services touch 1 trillion first or goods touch 1 trillion first. कई बार थोड़ी स्पर्धा हो तो मजा भी आता है काम करने में और लोगों को उत्तेजित भी करने में आसान हो जाता है.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Mahesh with you. Lot of Indian CAs are finding it difficult to get a ministry license here for practicing their profession. So I am one of that. I've been trying this, but how this can be helped from ministry level?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk to the government if somebody can send me a note. What is the process and how it can be simplified, or if there is any differentiation between you and any other chartered accountant coming from any other part of the world. Please give me some more specifics and certainly...
No, hurdle what we find is that only Bachelor of Commerce is a kind of hurdle for us, because who have already got the license maybe 15-20 years back, they have Bachelor of Commerce as their degree, bachelor degree. But currently they are looking for something, Bachelor of Commerce with the major in accounting and auditing.
though we are chartered accountants, master in that,
A
we are
note
finding
I'll
it very
talk
difficult
about.
now.
Definitely, we will share the note. Actually, I think he's right. Here, bachelors of commerce in accounting degrees accepted. And although you are a chartered accountant, they don't recognize. So this is the issue which we are facing.
आप मुझे दीजिए ना डिटेल्स, मैं समझ गया, इतना रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है.
Right, sir. Definitely, sir. Thank you very much for your support. I think we will take one more question and then I think we need to wrap it up. Okay. Okay. सर आप हैं तो हम तो बैठे हैं आराम से. Sure.
नमस्कार सर. पीयूष जी, मेरे पास दो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो मैं आपको एड्रेस करना चाहता हूँ फॉर द जो $5 ट्रिलियन का अपन जो बात करते हैं. नंबर 1 इज इनकॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ द कंपनी इन इंडिया बाय NRI. इसमें एक चीज है कि जो यहाँ का लोकल एड्रेस है दैट आई कैन नॉट गेट सर्टिफाइड फ्रॉम द काउंसिलेट, इट हैज टू बी डन बाय द नोटरी, एंड रेस्ट ऑल डॉक्यूमेंट्स रिलेटिंग टू इंडिया इट हैज टू बी सर्टिफाइड बाय द काउंसिलेट. तो इसके कारण कम से कम होता क्या है कि यहाँ का नोटरी अपने हिसाब से काम करता है, एंड द एंटरप्रेन्योर ही हैज टू स्पेंड टाइम टू गेट द डॉक्यूमेंट साइन. तो 3-4 बार उसको विजिट करना पड़ता है. दैट्स डिफिकल्टी नंबर 1. If the consulate is allowed to certify the local address of the entrepreneur, that will ease the opening operation of the company. Number 1. Secondly, the procurements of machinery, if I want to get it from India, then I have to transfer the funds. What happens is here there is no disparity between the holding and subsidiary company. I can transfer the funds from the holding company, whereas the subsidiary company might not have funds. Whereas when I transfer the money is not accepted by the Indian banks. They are not ready to transfer to the supplier, and the money is getting back. So I am not able to get the money, the machinery from there. So that is another problem, even after giving the LPOs and all the documentation part.
First of all, to your first question, I slightly disagree. Consulate doesn't have the wherewithal to verify each person's address. I'm assuming. Therefore, that would have been kept for a notary to do, because then a local notary becomes responsible. When the consulate certifies that, they'll have to go and first verify. And we don't have that big a staff that एक की verification हम करें address की. मुझे वो तो बड़ा logical decision लगता है. I don't think I can interfere in that. As regards your second company का second comment, दुबई में बड़ा seamless flow of funds है, और हो सकता है, मैं गहराई से इस विषय को नहीं जानता हूँ, पता लगा सकता हूँ जरूर. हो सकता है कि भारत में बैंक्स को चिंता होगी कि ये कहीं पैसा ठीक है कि नहीं है, उस कंपनी का जेन्युइन पैसा है, कोई थर्ड पार्टी ट्रांजैक्शन ये वो कैसी हो रही है. हो सकता है, मुझे इसकी जानकारी नहीं. आप नोट दोगे तो मैं इसकी जानकारी लेके भी आपको भेज सकता हूँ. पर प्राइमा फेसी मुझे लगता है शायद यही कारण होगा कि इतने सीमलेस फ्लो फंड्स में पैसा किसका है, क्या है. पीछे सुना के थोड़े फ्रॉड्स भी हुए. somebody took out money from somebody else's account, took it into his account. समझो ऐसा कोई सिचुएशन में वो करके और फिर भारत में भेज दे तो ट्रेल हमारे तक पहुंच जाएगी. हो दैट मे बी द रीजन, बट प्लीज सेंड मी अ नोट.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Ritesh Saxena from Washington, D.C. Sir, what a privilege to be in your eminent presence today, together with my father here and my dear childhood friend Padmanabh Acharya. Thank you so much for your time, sir, and thank you to ICAI Dubai chapter for the opportunity to be here. Sir, my question is related to maybe not directly to business like other questions, but Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Sabka Vikas is a chord that really touched my nerve when Shri Modi ji started that campaign. And you talked about taking prosperity to villages, providing education, healthcare, dignity to every child, every human being, making sure nobody is left behind in this development cycle. So, in that regard, sir, how can we as common men and citizens and NRIs participate? What kind of avenues? There are quite a few we know, but are there any programs that the government is facilitating?
See, I think, of course, at the outset, what I mentioned earlier, that through your profession, your professional work, your engagement with business and industry or investors. That's of course one way of ensuring that prosperity comes into India with more investments, more trade. Each of those will lead to jobs being created. Each of those will increase the economic activity. And growth is what will lead to prosperity of a larger section of people in India. So that's what we can do through our professional work. In terms of supporting causes, that's each one's choice. I'm not one to suggest or push something. For example, I know that in the US, many of you have been contributing significantly to Ekal Vidyalaya. It's an organization which runs one teacher schools. It has 100,000 schools all over India, where in the villages, very often where children go to school, now with almost universal primary education available in India for everybody, they go to school but they don't get a quality education in those schools. Teachers are absent, facilities are less, which we are now trying to upgrade, trying to integrate technology to improve the quality of education under the new education policy. But what this organization does is trains a volunteer, ideally from that same village, who may have done a little more studies, and he goes back to the village and literally below a banyan tree or in the panchayat office or somewhere, teaches elementary stuff to the kids at a young age, at the normative years. They can really help develop the person's capabilities and his his understanding of India, his national spirit, the elementary maths, for example, a little bit of culture and tradition of India. So like that, there must be several organizations which do good work. You can support any of them. We had PM Cares was launched so that all of us can support the effort to ensure COVID period. We give care for those who get affected or who lose their livelihoods or their incomes during this period. Also to expand healthcare facilities. That those type of opportunities, of course, from the government are always there. But while you please do keep doing social work, contributing to good causes, it could be through Rotary, through Lions. I'm not advocating any particular thing. I'm saying whatever you like. There's so many religious organizations of every religion who also do good work. Right? So that's for you to identify. So many there was a Jain gentleman who asked a question. So many Jain organizations which do outstanding work for society also, but of course pick it carefully, pick whatever each one of you choose carefully of any type. Do your due diligence of any organization. I'm sure you can do that well. But certainly the most important way is thinking about how you can give more economic growth to your country back home. How you can help maybe young startups. Let me throw an idea. Suppose, and I tell you, it's a business proposition also. Today what is happening is a young startup has a good idea. But at the early stage, seed capital financing stage, they don't get money. But the foreigners are smarter, sadly, in terms of understanding these startups' capabilities. So at the early stage, when the young man has a great idea, but no money in his pocket to burn, he'll ends up selling out his company at very low valuations. Very, very. I'm told Flipkart originally sold out most of its shares, a very large percentage of its economic ownership, for something under $1 billion, $800,000 or so. Originally, when they just started. It's 36 billion is the latest valuation that I was told about. What I'm trying to say is that, but the foreigners are picking up that early stage investment. They realize that out of 100, even if 1 or 2 does well, the 99 others who fail will not matter, will still make more money. But we Indians don't participate in the early stage finance. I mean, just imagine the strength if 1,000 or 500 people in this room even contributed to a pool of capital professionally run. Don't ask government where to invest, please. You all decide. Pick up good ideas, get some, you can coordinate with somebody in India and create a proper venture capital fund or a venture investment fund which focuses on the early stage investments. let the Indians own our wonderful startups and unicorns in the making.
Right, sir.
And worst case पैसा नहीं भी कमाएंगे.
Yes.
हो सकता है हमारे कुछ youngsters को एक confidence तो देंगे life में. Even after failure, failure is a stepping stone to success.
So right there is a brilliant suggestion you provided. A couple of them really, Ekal Vidyalaya and also the young startups, if they can be
I'm not
focused.
advocating any one
No,
or
not
I'm giving an
necessarily,
example.
but ideas, right?
मतलब गलत फहमी में कोई नहीं
नहीं।
तो बाद में.
जी, जी, जी.
It's a good organization.
But the idea is to take this progress to the villages, right? So thank you so much for that. And by the way, I love your Facebook feeds on all the progress Railways has made. So please kindly keep them coming. Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. So this is Vinod Joshi from PKF UE. Many of us, just to share with you, sir, many of us are actually part of Ekal Vidyalaya, and actually we are contributing something to the Ekal Vidyalaya, which is doing in tribal areas. Thank you for sharing such a interesting perspective on the Indian economy. Sir, I have a question. You said here in the UAE there is a sovereign fund who is look for to invest in India. At the same time, there is a private sector in India which is waiting for the capital. They have a growth perspective. They have the growth opportunity. But somehow there's some disconnect. They are not able to reach out to the capital, or possibly the capital is not able to reach out to those unicorns in making, or those private sector companies. Is there a mechanism which can be established, or is there a mechanism which is existing where we can represent that private sector in India to reach out to the capital over here? Or is there anything which we can do possibly in terms of making these two things meet? Thank you.
Well, I think that will have to happen through professional organizations only. Government इसमें पड़ेगी तो problem आ जाएगी. कोई गलत investment हो गया, कोई गलत आदमी, और government को इतना due diligence वगैरह करना संभव भी नहीं है. Clearly government को तो इसमें जरा भी पढ़ना नहीं चाहिए. It will have to be a professional set of organizations which get involved. I'm sure there are good investment bankers and all in India, but I do agree there's a lot more potential for building up this connect between those who need the capital and those who want to invest. For example, but that's where all of us can play a role. For example, I talked about the PLI scheme. I suspect most businesses in the UAE may not even be aware of it. But if chartered accountants were to make them aware of it, that look, we can invest 300 crores and set up a nice big textile plant over there, produce over there, there's an FTA coming up very soon. Textiles will clearly be an area where we'll try to get concessions and market access. Or gems and jewelry. Gems and jewelry, of course, there's no PLI. Auto components has a PLI. Electronic goods have a PLI. Semiconductor, we are coming out with a very, very robust policy very soon. So these things, with the large investment appetite that UAE and UAE businesses and sovereign wealth fund have, you will have to become the ambassadors, keep studying what's happening back home, studying where the FTAs are happening and where the opportunities emerge. Maybe study the import data, what is being imported into India, and suggest to your business persons here that look, this industry, maybe we can work with India and expand. Some of you could even look at attracting people to set up industry in Jebel Ali or any of these free trade zones, which allow Indians to come and work here. That's equally good. अगर Jebel Ali में आप 500 लोगों को लाके यहाँ काम देते हो, और अब फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट के बाद वो सामान भारत भी जा सकते हैं, बाकी जगह भी एक्सपोर्ट हो सकते हैं, तो हमारे 500 परिवारों का तो उद्धार हो जाएगा ना. तो there's so many ways which we can, all of us can contribute.
Thank you very much, Piyush, for a great interaction and taking so many questions. Now I would request our chairman, CA Sundan Nunani, to present a memento on behalf of the ICI Dubai chapter to CA Piyush Goyal.
Please sit.